there's more fear from a new real estate investor wanting to get into private money than from the private lenders themselves once they see how they're protected. And and I say to anyone that is interested in starting to use private money to fund your real estate deals, here's a writer downer. It's impossible to be rejected when you're asking for nothing.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Grid. What is going on, everybody? Hey, today I have Jay Conner with us, and he's going to talk to us about where to find the money now. Now, before we do that, though, it's like I love the heart, Jay, of the real estate entrepreneur, right? You're a real estate entrepreneur. I want to get an understanding of how you got started, right? Where this all came about. When I was doing some research on you, I was like, okay, this guy's all about private lending. And I saw like something probably happened in his career that led him in this direction. And so I want to unpack that a little bit for our Grid audience. And as you know, we're taking everybody on this income flip journey where we want to show them how to take their active income and convert it into passive income. And so let's just kind of get into it,
Sure, absolutely, Rob. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to come along and hang out and talk about my favorite subject that I'm the most passionate about, that being private money and private lending and how all that works. So my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we live here in Eastern North Carolina in a really, really small community. Morehead City, North Carolina, has a whopping 8,000 people in Morehead City. So our entire county and the adjacent community that we invest in has only got 40,000 people, only 40,000 people. We've been full-time investing in single-family houses. We've rehabbed a little over 475 houses now here in our local area. And we only do about 30 deals a year, but the average profit now is $78,000 per house. So the math works out on that. So we started full-time back in 2003 is when we were full-time. Only did 3 houses my first year because I was just like getting my feet wet. And Rob, here's what happened. The first 6 years that we were in the business, investing in single family houses from 2003 until 2009, I relied on the local banks and mortgage companies to fund my house deals. That's all I knew to do. I didn't know, I'd never heard of creative financing. I'd never heard of subject to, I'd never heard of private money. I thought you just had to go to the bank, take a sizable down payment on every deal, and borrow money from the bank. So in January of 2009, I had 2 houses under contract to buy. And I called up my banker. And Rob, I had had this conversation with my banker many, many times. I told him about the deals, where they were located, the funding required. And I learned very quickly, Rob, on that conversation that the bank had closed my line of credit. No funding, all gone. My first thought in my mind, Rob, was, I sure wish I had known that they had shut down my line of credit before I went and put earnest money down on these 2 houses. And back then in North Carolina, you couldn't get it back in 2009. And so my next thought was, well, what in the world am I going to do? Well, I tell you what, Rob, that experience was the biggest blessing, the biggest impact in our business I've ever had. Because without being cut off from the bank, and by the way, I had a great credit score, never been late. I mean, I didn't know there was a global financial crisis going on until now. I got a crisis and don't have to fund my deals. Well, my definition of coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. In less than 2 weeks, I learned about this world of private money and private lending. I put my program together. I started teaching people in my own network what private money is. I learned about self-directed IRAs. I started teaching about self-directed IRAs. And Rob, the the traditional way of borrowing money for real estate is you go to the bank or the mortgage company or the hard money lender. And I'm not talking hard money in this conversation. I'm talking about doing business with individuals
Mhm.
that loan money out from either their investment capital and or their retirement funds. And so the traditional way to borrow money, is you go to your banker and you get on your hands and knees and put your hand underneath your chin and you go, please fund my deal. Please fund my deal. Right. Well, no more. Not in this world. You see, the traditional way to borrow money from the bank is you ask for a mortgage. In this world, we don't ask for mortgages. We don't ask for money. I've never pitched a deal. I've never asked anybody to fund my deals. And people ask me all the time, they say, Jay, how do you have $8.5 million that you just rotate from projects to projects to projects and you never asked? Here's the secret sauce. You put on your teacher hat and you teach people in your own network, your own market, what private money is, how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely. So I was able to raise $2,150,000 in less than 90 days by just teaching people that I go to church with, that I'm in the Rotary Club with, in Business Networking International, all that. And so I've got more money chasing me today from private lenders wanting to put their money to work and get a high rate of return safely and securely than I've ever had before. Private money, and I got a long list as to why I love it, but private money as a real estate investor, entrepreneur, will put you in the driver's seat, in control of your business more than anything else I've experienced.
Jay, let's go back in time a little bit. By the way, I love that because at Grid, we are teachers. We always say that we are teachers at heart. Grid is a real estate investing, teaching platform when you think about it, right? Each one of our leaders has a teacher's heart and is pouring into the greater community on a specific topic. You just taught them, like, and we have a series of topics that we teach on, but you taught them this one topic, this private lending space, which I absolutely love as well. But what got you in the real estate in the first place? Because I don't think 2003 was your first career, right?
Well, I know I look much younger than I actually am, but you're right. The answer is correct. Yes. So I was actually raised in real estate, but
Mm,
not in the traditional real estate definition. My dad actually was the largest retailer of manufactured homes, mobile homes, trailers, wobbly boxes, whatever you want to call them, in the nation up until the late 80s. I was raised all around seeing how my dad and his company helped people get affordable housing.
mhm.
So I was raised around that. In 2003, essentially all the consumer finance money for that product went away. And so I knew if I ever got out of mobile homes, manufactured housing, I wanted to get into single family houses. And so that's what I did. I mean, I'd known for years. And the reason I knew I wanted to do it is because Carol Joy and I've got really, really good friends. Craig and Kim live in Newbern, North Carolina. In 19, I forget what year it was. I think it was 1993. They wanted to build their house and they didn't have any seed money to build the house. Well, the wife, Kim's daddy, was a full-time real estate investor down in Florida. And he said, look, I'll come up and we'll find a fixer upper. I'll buy it. You do the sweat equity, get it looking good. We'll put it on the market. We'll sell it. You get to keep the profit for your down payment on your house. Well, they made $30,000 in 90 days. And I'm
Mhm.
going, wait a minute. I'm trying to make $3,000 profit on a single wide mobile home. And they made $30,000 just working part time in the evening and on the weekends, flipping this house. I said, I know what I want to do. So really, it was my friend's experience that got me all excited about it.
Interesting. Yeah, you saw a different vehicle that opened up your eyes. And then
Absolutely.
from there, it sounded like there was an additional vehicle, right? This private lending space that opened up your world even further. And so I want to understand, what are all the nuances that you love about private lending? Like when you're like, I am passionate about it. Like, what is it? Like, what is it that makes you so passionate about private lending?
It's even hard for me to share which of these many reasons I love the most, if I had to if I had to pick just one out of the list, first I would say I receive multiple checks on every deal that I do, and I never take any of my own any of my own cash to closing. In fact, I get a big check when I buy. They say,
Mhm.
"Wait a minute, Jay. Wait a minute. How in the world do you not take any of your own money to the closing table and you get a big check when you buy?" Well, first of all, I'm buying all these houses at significant discounts, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not buying them in the multiple listing service. They ain't anything in there. There's no
Mhm.
inventory. I haven't bought anything in the multiple listing service in quite a while. So I'm buying all these houses directly from FSBOs for sale by owners. So either the owner is distressed for a variety of reasons, or the property is distressed, or all the above. So most of these houses I'm buying at less than 50 cents of the after repaired value, right?
Mhm.
So we're buying
Mhm.
a significant discount. Well, I'll borrow up to 75% of the after repaired value. I didn't
Mhm.
say 75% of the purchase,
Mhm.
75% of the after repaired value. So let me give some specific numbers here. Let's say that I'm buying a house that's got an after repaired value of, just easy numbers here, of $200,000. And let's say that it's a rehab, it needs a rehab. Well, I'll buy that house, let's say, for $100,000. Well, I can borrow $150,000. That's 75% of the after repaired value. Well, let's stop and think about it. If I'm buying it for 100,000 and I got my private lender has wired $150,000 to the closing table, there's excess cash. By the way, that's my real estate attorney's words on this check stub. Excess cash to
Mhm.
close. I love me some excess cash.
Mhm.
Anyway, they wired $150,000. I'm buying it for 100. Well, there's $50,000 excess right there, less some closing costs, of course. And I'm bringing that check home, 50 grand. Now, the majority of that money I'm going to use for the rehab, maybe
Mhm.
$35,000 or so. And then I've got some other money left over for carrying costs and et cetera. So, of course, then I'm going to get another check when I cash out, or I may sell it on lease purchase and get a large non-refundable lease option deposit, and sell it on rent to own. So multiple checks, not taking any of my money to the closing table. What's another reason? Well, my credit score's got nothing to do with it, even though I've got a great credit score. But you see, there's no application process. You're not applying to get the money. You're teaching people what this program is, and now they tell you how much they got to work with, and now you go find a deal to put the money to work. So, number of deals. There's no limit to the amount of private money I can borrow at any
Mhm.
given time. I had a limit on my line of credit at the bank. Since we're not regulated by the commissioner of banks, these are individuals doing business with individuals. There's no limit to the amount of private money I can borrow, and there's no limit to the number of private lenders that I can have. I got 47 right now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That are loaning and investing anywhere from 30,000 to 1,250,000 per private lender. Fast closings. I make all my offers I can close within 7 calendar days. I mean, my
Mhm.
lands. I mean, all your agents know this. Aren't you surprised anything ever closes? Right? It's like, I mean, how many times are they going to lose the most recent W-2? It's like
Mhm.
the W-2 three times, right? So, I mean, the documentation is so simple. When I close with a private lender and I make my offers, I can close in 7 days. I get more offers accepted because I can close fast. And
Mhm.
I mean, here's the deal. I just closed on a house 2 weeks ago. The people said, "Look, we don't want to sell till August." Well, we all know time kills deals. The more time that goes by between I'm negotiated a deal and actually closing that deal, the less likely it's going to happen. So they said, "We went on to close till August." I said, "No problem. I'll pay you all your money right now. We'll close, you transfer ownership to me, and you can live rent free till the
Yep.
end of August," right? So I can close fast, no limit to the number of deals I want, and I make my own rules. Boy, ain't that a difference. I mean, when I was borrowing money from the banks set the interest rate. I set the interest rate. Remember,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
teaching the private lending program to my potential private lenders. So here's the interest rate I'm paying. Here's the length of the note. Here's how you can get your money back in, less than 90 days if you have an emergency come up. So I teach the program, and now they love it or they don't. And I can tell you they always love it, because where else are they going to get these kinds of rates of return safely and securely? So we put the program and the parameters together, and I mean, it just puts you in control in so much of your business. And here's another one. I mean, yeah, I'm making the rules. I can do as many deals as I want to. Listen, Rob, when I first learned about private money, when the banker cut me off in January 2009, our business tripled.
Hmm.
And remember what was going on in 2009?
Sure.
All those foreclosures were going on, and the banks weren't lending money. Well, if you had money, you could buy foreclosures. Well, now I had all that private money, and our business tripled because I could pick and choose the deals I want. I mean, because of private money, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the funding since January 2009.
Jay, so let's pause there, because that there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. I remember September of 2008, Lehman Brothers files for bankruptcy, right? It was literally Armageddon. Every house in our area was a foreclosure or a short sale. And every market was slightly different on where they were. I remember feeling the peak in 2005. I remember feeling the slide down in 2007. I remember seeing it go off a cliff in 2008. I started seeing it come back in 2009, 2010, 2011, right? My question is this. When you got cut off, so many people would have thrown in the towel or gotten into trouble, or but you pivoted. You pivoted. How did that pivot happen? Who introduced you to it? How did you reimagine the business? Because in a shifting market, you have to reimagine the business. And right now the market is shifted for many people. So there's a reimagining of the business. I'm just curious, what was the thought process?
I'm so glad you asked. I mean, I had a choice. I could quit, right?
Mhm.
Quit, go eat Cheetos on the sofa at the house and pray. But I'm so glad you asked that question, and here's why. I want to share with everyone right now a formula that I learned from Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield, is the co-creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Mhm.
Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen did those together. And Jack wrote this book that is amazing. The name of the book is The Success Principles. The Success Principles. There's 69 success principles. The very first principle in the book is be 100% responsible for everything that happens to you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, so many people walking around feel like a victim. Like, it's where the tide takes me is where I'm going to end up. Instead of being a victor, they are a victim, right? So in that chapter, be 100% responsible for everything that happens in your life. Here is this formula that can transform your life and the way you think about things and put you in control of your destiny. Here's the formula. E plus R equals O. And here's what these letters stand for. E stands for event. R stands for response, which is your response, equals O, which stands for outcome. Now, unfortunately, most people walk around, live with a formula in their mind. They don't know what the formula is, but this is what they live by. They live by E equals O. Event equals outcome. Whatever happens in my life, okay, that determines what I am experiencing. Well, you see, you can have an event happen in your life, such as me being cut off from the banks, that either you had something to do with creating that event in your life, or you didn't. Now, I've got a really, really good friend that when he was 7 years old, his father died. And for decades, he blamed, and that was his excuse for everything that sucked in his life. It's like, well, what do you expect? My dad died when I was 7 years old. Well, you see, his response, so he didn't have anything to do with his father dying, right? He didn't have anything to do with that. but he could have been 100% responsible for how he was going to respond to his father dying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about 10 years ago, he turned his life around, and now he's responded to that event in a totally different way. And now he's got his own coaching business and personal development business and all that stuff. Well, why in the world am I sharing that story? Because of what happened to me in January 2009. Remember, event plus response equals outcome. The event was the bank cut me off. The bank cut me off. I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with Lehman Brothers, falling and all that. But I am experiencing that event. Bank cut me off. Right now, how do I want to respond to that? Right? Because my response is going to determine the outcome from that event. So here's exactly what happened, Rob. I sat here. By the way, here in Eastern North Carolina, can you believe we still have handsets with cords attached to
I
them?
love it.
Isn't that amazing?
It's
People don't even
amazing.
know what that is. But I picked up this very receiver after, well, I'm talking to my banker. I hang up, right? And I sit here for a moment. Now, here is a really, really important question that you can ask yourself when dirt hits the fan. All right. The question I ask myself is, who can help me with my problem? And by the way, the people that call problems opportunities, would you wake up, please? I didn't have an opportunity. I had a problem. I had a blankety blank problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is I got 2 deals under contract and no way to close on them. Now that's
Mm-hmm.
my problem, right? So I asked myself, who can help me with my problem?
Mm.
So the very first, the power's in the questions. The power's in the
Absolutely.
question. What'd you say?
I said absolutely. The
Yeah.
book, it reminds me of the book Who Not How. If you've read the book,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes. I love that book. I
great
love
book.
it. So I sat here for a moment. I asked myself that question, who can help me with my problem? Well, immediately I thought of Jeff. Jeff's a good friend of mine. He was a part-time real estate investor at the time. He lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I called him up. I told him what happened. He said, welcome to the club. I said, what club? He said, the club of getting cut off from the bank. They just cut me off last week. I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to fund your deals? He said, well, there's this gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida by the name of Ron LeGrand that can teach us how to get a lot of private money. I said, what's private money? Jeff says, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it.
God.
So I go to Ron's seminar to learn about private money. And I learned about it. It was all new to me. I learned about self-directed IRAs and how people can use their current retirement funds and transfer them to a self-directed IRA third-party custodian and then loan money out from their retirement funds, either tax-free or tax-deferred. All this was a new world to me, and I was so fascinated. So the first thing I had to wrap around my mind, Rob, was you're not applying for money. You're not asking for money. You are offering people an opportunity, and now you're going to teach them. You're going to teach them. Now, there's 3 categories where you find private lenders: your own network, or I teach people all the time how to grow their network, because we know there's a direct correlation between your network and your net worth, of course. And then there's existing private lenders. How do you find those existing private lenders that are already loaning money out? But I focused first on teaching my own network what it was all about. So how it happened was, somebody asked me recently, they say, Jay, what do you think is the most important attribute, personal attribute that someone can have or should have in order to be a successful real estate investor, or quite frankly, successful in any expertise or want to become an expertise in it? And I immediately had the answer come to my mind: resiliency. Resiliency, right? You're just going to keep going, and if you get a problem, you're going to ask for help. You're right. You're going to go to a seminar. You're going to get educated. You're going to ask other people that might be experiencing the same thing you are. How are they navigating through that? For goodness sakes, don't start in this business by yourself. So I guess there was more than one piece to it, Rob, as to what got me through it. I'm just committed. I'm going to be resilient. I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to ask for help when I need help.
Well, you knew that, being a real estate investor, entrepreneur is about learning how to solve problems for the clients, for yourself, for the business. And so you're like, how do I solve this problem? And most importantly, who can help me solve this problem? Right? Who can help me solve this problem? So that's great. So a relationship was able to kind of guide you, a mentor or a friend was able to guide you to a mentor that then exposed you to private lending. And it sounds like you're using all the money for your own personal acquisitions, and some of them you're putting on lease options. But do you ever lend the private money out, create the spread? Are you a hard money lender using the private funds as a hard money lender as well?
So I love both. I love both ends of the industry. So being a private lender is a great way to be in real estate, but you're just totally passive, right?
Mhm.
As a private lender, you don't have to go out, you don't have to market, you don't have to find the deals, you don't have to negotiate the deals, you don't have to oversee the deals, blah, 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 blah. You're just, loaning the money out, right? By the way, we never borrow unsecured money or lend unsecured money. We always back it with the real estate that we're buying, giving the lender a deed of trust or a mortgage, et cetera. We name them on the insurance policies, the mortgagee, to protect them as well. But the answer to your question is yes. So I moved my retirement funds when I learned about it over to a self-directed IRA, also known as a third-party custodian. And oh my lands, the company I'm working with these days, their service is unbelievable. I get my deals funded in 3 days. But yes, I use my retirement funds as a private lender, right? And then I borrow a bunch. And one question I get all the time, Rob, not all the time, but a lot, and say, wait a minute, Jay, wait a minute. You say you're doing 30 deals a year, you're averaging $78,000 per deal. Why in the world are you still borrowing private money? Why don't you just use your own money? And so here's the answer: using your own cash, if you have it, is a great place to put in a house that you're going to flip. But I'm not going to bury my cash in houses for any long term.
Mhm.
And plus, I don't want my money tied up in 20 projects. I got 20 houses going right now. And another answer to that is okay, I pay my private lenders 8%. 8% is what they get paid. That's annual percentage rate.
Mhm.
But if I can get a higher return than 8% using my cash elsewhere, then I'm not going to tie my money up in houses if I can go elsewhere and get even better than 8%,
Sure.
right? So anyway, those are the reasons that I still borrow a lot of private money myself.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And there is a difference between that passive private lender who just wants a coupon and somebody like you who understands the business and understands how to be active and create arbitrage in that process. And you just know that you can actually turn your money and make more money on that, right? And that's
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 right.
because you have specialized knowledge, and specialized knowledge is worth a lot of money, right? It's worth
That's
a lot of
right.
money, right? Well, what are some of the fears that you find that a new private lender typically has? Like when you're in the education process and you're helping them navigate this process, what are some of the things that you help them overcome and understand?
Yeah. So one thing they want to know, how are they protected?
Hmm.
Like, what's the worst that could happen? Well, I guess one of the worst things that could happen is I could lose my mind and move to the Caribbean and disappear, right?
Hmm.
How are they protected? Well, they're protected because if you don't pay them as the borrower, the property does. If
Hmm.
you don't pay them, the property does. So they can get the property. Of course, they don't want the property. They don't want to hassle with the property, but that is their security, right? And in fact, since we don't only borrow up to 75% of the after repaired value, they've got a nice 25% equity cushion, right, in
Hmm.
that property where they can actually make more money if they sold the property than the interest that I was going to be, paying them. Um, they want to know how fast can you use the money and put their money to work, and how often. I mean, it's like they don't want you to like keep paying. They don't want you to pay it back, and now their money's just sitting there not earning them money, earning them.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to know, okay, if we're going to do business, are you really going to be able to put my money to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to just sit there and hold it. Okay. Um, what happens if you die? What if the
It's a great
borrower,
question.
yeah, I mean, what if you die? How are they protected, right? Well, if you die and you don't pay and your estate doesn't pay them, same scenario, they've got the property, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you die, I mean, what's your plan? I mean, what's your exit strategy for what a private lender would, anticipate? And I get that question every now and then, not often, but it's a great question. Well, I tell them who my trustee is of my estate, and that's my attorney is the
Mm-hmm.
trustee. And the trustee knows that my wife is not going to want to continue this business, right? She's in charge of all the bookkeeping, but I mean, she's not going to want to be out here negotiating deals and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff, just not her cup of tea. So he has instructions to liquidate the properties. And when you liquidate, you can't liquidate a property until the private lender's paid off,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't liquidate and sell a property and give clear title unless everybody's paid off. So the trustee knows, what to do in that case. And beyond that, that's really about it. There's really, Rob, there's more fear from a new real estate investor wanting to get into private money than from the private lenders themselves once they see how they're protected. And and I say to anyone that is interested in starting to use private money to fund your real estate deals, here's a writer downer. It's impossible to be rejected when you're asking for nothing. Think about
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
impossible to be rejected. So we lead with a servant's heart in everything that we do. And if you're genuinely teaching people what this world of private money is all about, and you're not pitching a deal, listen, the worst time to be raising private money is when you need it for a deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
worst time to be raising any private money. What we do is we separate the conversations and the activities of raising private money and then having a deal to fund, right? So first, you teach a potential private lender what this is, how it works. They love it. If they have retirement funds, you introduce them to the representative at the self-directed IRA to answer any questions. They get their account funded. They're ready to do business with you. They tell you how much they got. Now, we're going to put their money to work for them just as fast as we can. So now when it's time to use their funds, you already know what they got. Well, I call them up and I tell them only 4 things, and this is the only 4 things they want to know. Where's the property? What's the after repaired value? How much do you need to fund it? And when's closing?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Rob, let's say you're one of my new private lenders. You tell me you got $150,000 you want to start with. By the way, private lenders always have more than they tell you. They always got more than they tell you. They want, to start out. So let's say I get a house under contract over here in Newport. So I call up Rob with my, handy dandy handset here. Call up Rob and I say, Rob, and here's the exact script. I say, Rob, I've got fantastic news for you. I can now put your money to work for you. I've got a house over here in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000. The funding required for the deal is $150,000. That's what you've got. You already told me. And closing is next Thursday. You'll need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney, going to his trust account by next Wednesday. I'm going to have my attorney email you with the wiring instructions. You notice I didn't ask you, Rob, do you want to fund the deal? That's the most stupid question in the world I could ask you. You may think, well, I don't know. Do I want to fund it? Should I want to? Of course you want to fund it. Mm-hmm. You've been waiting for the phone call because you told me you want to invest your funds. So, of course, I'm not going to bring a deal to the conversation that does not meet the criteria of the program that I already told you about. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, you're going to want to fund the deal, and you're excited to get the phone call because you've been waiting for the phone call.
Do you get, Jay, where your investor, let's say you're fixing and flipping a property, and the money is out for 4 months, and then it goes back to them, and they're like, this is great, but then maybe they don't get another call from you for 2 months or a month. And I don't know what your business looks like, but they're like, I'd like to just have it out there for longer, Jay. I don't want the back and forth, right? I just want to have it out for like a year or 2 years. And 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 if I want to call it, then you have like a 90-day window, and it can get called. Do you ever do anything like that with your private lenders?
So my terms, my length of the notes, if it's just investment capital, like, just liquid money in their checking account or savings account, I'm going to set those terms up on 2 years.
Mhm.
If the money is coming from their retirement money, I'll go ahead and set it up on 5 years, just in case I end up selling it on rent to own, and we don't have to keep extending the note. So in this market, here's the reality. I've got so many deals going. It can easily be 3 or 4 months before my crew or one of my general contractors can even get to the house.
Mhm.
3 or 4 months, right? Because we got them backlogged. They're waiting, right?
Mhm.
And then on a 40, $50,000 rehab, they may be in that house for 2 or 3 months,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
now I'm 7 months down the
Mhm.
road. And now let's say I do put it on the market, 45 days to close. So I'm like 9 months, 10 months.
Mhm.
So typically, even on our flips, it's going to be knocking on that, year down the road, nine
Mhm.
months to 12 months. But here's the deal. I can't keep the money unless I'm collateralizing. I mean, I can. I mean, I could legally do just a promissory note and
Sure.
not secure their note, but I don't do business that way. I mean,
Mhm.
I have people all the time starting out with them. They say, "Well, Jay, how do I get started? Do I just write you a check?" No, you do not write me a check. You don't write my company a check.
Mhm.
You only send money to the closing agent's trust account,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
No monies are dispersed until after funding, and that closing is handled here in North Carolina by our real estate attorney. But if they've got the money there with you for 9 months to 12 months, and you're able to put that money back to work pretty quick, they're happy with that. On the other hand, I do a lot of substitutions of collateral.
Mm.
What world is that? Well, you realtors know what it is, but just to make sure, a substitution of collateral is exactly what it sounds like. The legal term is actually a loan modification. And so what we'll do, I'll use smaller amounts of money for rehabbing, small, like 30,000, 40,000, and that'll be like a note in a junior position underneath the larger note that I say used for the purchase.
Mhm.
So if I've got a note that's 30, 40, $50,000, and let's say I'm selling and I'm cashing out on that particular house, and there's a private lender note in second position that I used for rehabbing, 30, 40, 50,000. Well, if I'm cashing out, in fact, I've got one going like right now, I'm closing next week. Well, I've got a $50,000 note in second position on the house that I'm selling. Well, that private lender doesn't want their money back, right? I've been doing business with them for years. So I will have my attorney draw up a loan modification. We will substitute that $50,000 note, we'll substitute the collateral. So the note stays in play. They don't lose any interest. They don't lose any time, right? It's still earning money. And my attorney will draw the loan modification, and it's just like it sounds. We're going to pay off that house. Now we're going to substitute another house, the collateral, to back that original note. So that's
That's
one way we keep
fantastic.
money working.
I see that. I see that. And I would imagine, uh, when you're a private lender, one of the biggest things that you need to do, you mentioned your wife does all the bookkeeping, is making sure that the books are done properly, right? What's your process for that? And I know that's separate, right? Your private lender is always, they just care about their check. Did I get my coupon this month, right? Um, but you need to always be making sure that you are running your business in a business like manner and doing the books. What are your habits around that? So I understand.
So all of our accounting is at our CPA, set up our QuickBooks for us. And so everything is run through there.
Mm.
Once a month, once a month, I bring up to date what's called our private lender spreadsheet. And on this, and we just use Excel, right? There's nothing sophisticated here. And I take an inventory of, okay, which private lenders have how much money available. And when one gets paid off, when we pay off a house and a private lender gets paid off, we do what's called putting them in the queue. So they go back in line, right? And we work our way back up. And so typically our private lenders are going to have their money just sort of sitting, waiting, maybe 30 days, 45 days before we're actually able to put it back to work if we didn't do a substitution of collateral. Some of our private lenders are paid monthly, some are paid quarterly, some are paid semi-annually, and that's again very, very simple. It's an Excel spreadsheet as to who gets paid when.
I love it. I love it. And you know what's so interesting is that when I first got into this business, I thought that lending money was the risky part. And what you come to learn is that it's the safest part of this whole side, especially when it's collateralized at the right LTV. And that is, I'm sure, part of your education, right? And I'm curious, what do you do for the education piece? So you hold like monthly seminars for that? Like what is your process for the monthly education?
Yeah. So one of my favorite ways to raise a lot of private money really quickly is by putting on private money events or private money luncheons, right? I've raised $969,000 at one luncheon, And what happens, and of course, I teach my students how to do this all the time. What happens at a private lender luncheon? Well, number one, you're going to buy lunch, right? You're going to have it at one of the nicest places you have. I love having ours over at the Dunes Club, which is a beach club over here at Atlantic Beach. And the whole deal is only going to last an hour. So you got a preset menu. You're going to invite, people from your own network, potential private lenders. And you're going to have your team there. So my attorney's going to be there. My real estate attorney's going to be there. My CPA is going to be there. My realtor that I do business with. By the way, I've been doing business with the same realtor. I'm not a realtor, but my realtor that I do business with is very, very important to me. Chris Latham. He's been my primary go-to realtor since 2004. Since 2004. And he does all my CMAs and all that. So my realtor's going to be there. One of my general contractors will be there. My acquisitionist, my team will be there, so they can meet. So they come in, they sit down, we got a pre-planned meal, food is served, and then about 20 or 25 minutes into it, then I do my PowerPoint presentation, which is called the private lender presentation. That's where I teach them what this private lending world is all about. It only takes about 25 minutes to go through. So the purpose of that private lender luncheon is to introduce and to teach the private lending program. And of course, as all of you know, as realtors and agents, the money is in the follow-up. The money's in the follow-up. So we'll follow up with them as well. So I love doing private lender luncheons. A private money event is you could invite people to one of your houses if you've rehabbed it, and you can have before pictures as to what this thing looked like before you started. I mean, HGTV sexified this business.
It did.
So people love that stuff. They love it, right? So you can have pictures or, easels set up with before pictures, and now they're walking through your beautiful, newly renovated home that's staged and ready for Southern Living magazine pictures. By the way, side note, I always have Lighthouse Videos do a music video on Matterport and going through the house, and I got the music video and everything. And so now they can see what you're doing when you've done a deal, and then you can teach the private lending program there as well. You can have a Zoom party, invite people. I mean, my lands, Zoom, COVID changed everything with Zoom. Right?
It did.
So I love to use Zoom, inviting people to a investor opportunity, whatever you want to call it, and you invite them to the Zoom party. And it takes the same amount of time to teach your private lending program to one person as it does to 25. I love Zooms for people that are out of the area or out of state that you've got a connection with. By the way, I do have a cell phone, by the way. If a contact's in your cell phone, either they or somebody they know is a potential private lender. So I invite them to the Zoom party and, do the private lender presentation, that way as well. We do webinars, inviting people to webinars. We still do webinars. But in addition to all that, one of my favorite ways to raise a lot of private money is get involved in BNI. And with all of you all being realtors and agents, I know you got to know what BNI is. They only let one realtor in, one seat, one seat for the realtor. And isn't that a coveted seat right there? So BNI, I've raised a lot of money by being so involved in BNI and being the education coordinator and having that extra 5 minutes of FaceTime at the BNI meetings. So, grow your network, get involved in the community, lead with a servant's heart. And, the more you get out there and give through the law of reciprocity, it's all going to come back to you. By the way, another book I love, The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, The Go-Giver. I had him on my podcast about 6 weeks ago. He's amazing.
Jay, I'm glad you brought that up because, first and foremost, Grid, right, is comprised of, it's led by the agent investor, but we have thousands of just full-time investors that are part of the community. And the whole premise is to live a go-giver philosophy, right? To be a go-giver. And when a Grid leader launches a community around the country, we ship them the book, right?
Really?
The Go-Giver. Yeah, we ship them the book because that is our heart. It's like, come from contribution. There's this concept of the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity is how we built our business here locally. And now we show people how to do that across the country. But we ship them the Go-Giver book. It's one of my favorite books. So I might hit you up because I'd love to have Bob on our podcast at some point, right?
He's an amazing guest. He's an amazing guest. I'll get you introduced for you to have Bob Berg on your show.
That'd be amazing. That would be amazing. Well, Jay, if people wanted to learn more about getting into the private lending space, I know that you've created some digital assets, you've written some books. How could our audience, how could the Grid network kind of learn and deep dive? Because I know I'm interested in, we actually started a private lending arm earlier this year, and we got a lot to learn. And obviously you've been playing the game for a long time. So I selfishly want to learn more. How would I do that?
For your audience, Rob, the best way, and I pull back the curtain and I hold nothing back. Because
you're a go-giver.
I am.
Because you're a go-giver. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, I'm going to give everything you got. So my book that was just recently released is called Where to Get the Money Now. And the subtitle is How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. So it's $20 on Amazon, but don't spend $20 on Amazon. You can go to, and here's the URL. And by the way, this is not an ebook. You can't download it. I actually physically ship it by priority mail to you. And you can pick it up at www.jayconner. By the way, I'm an ER, not an OR. So JAYConner.com/book. jayconner.com/book. And when you order the book, and by the way, the book is free. It's a couple of bucks to cover shipping and handling. I think it's $6.95, something like that, to cover shipping and handling. It cost me $20 to get it to your priority mail. But anyway, as a gift, in addition to the book, there's a little gold medallion in the upper right-hand corner of the book. And this gold medallion says 2 tickets to the Private Money Academy Conference live event. The event I put on 3 times a year, February, June, and October. It's a $3,000 event, but with the book, you got 2 free tickets to get to the event. So if you're serious about raising a lot of private money, pick up the book, jayconner.com/book, and then do whatever you can to get to my live event. And again, the live event's free.
Jay, that was my question. Tell me about the live events. Where do they take place?
Right here in mine and Carol Joy's backyard. So we have most of them over here at Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, which is right across the high-rise bridge. here in Atlantic Beach. Actually, this one upcoming is at the other end of the island at Emerald Isle. But the reason I have it here is for a number of reasons. Number one, I have about a dozen of our own private lenders come to the event for the attendees to network with, right? I do a panel with private money exactly the way that I do it. You got me for 3 days. It's always on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And in addition to that, I also teach all 4 pillars of how we do this business. Getting the money, of course, is just one piece. The first pillar is finding deals. Well, how do we find the deals before other real estate investors even know about these deals? That's another big part of the secret sauce as to how we do the business. So how do we find the deals? I teach that at the event. Obviously, funding deals. If you're interested in rehabbing, I do 4 hours on rehabbing, and we do a tour, 2 houses that we've got going on right now. And you get to see how we work with my general contractor and the other team members. Speaking of other team members, at the event, I have all my team members come and we do different sessions. I have my real estate attorney, Julie Wickheiser. We do a whole session with her. How do we do business together? And we never talk on the telephone, and she gets all my deals, all my documents done, right? My acquisitionist, how does she negotiate with the sellers, right? And close the deals. My realtor, Chris Latham, that I mentioned, he comes and we talk about how we do business together with our real estate agent. And again, just all the team members are there. And then I teach how I sell any house in 3 days or less. And then in addition to that, the third day is about automation. How do I run this business and have time to come get on Rob's podcast here? How do I run this? How do I run this business? And I'm in the business literally 5 hours, maybe a week, less than 10 hours a week. How do you do that? Right? Well, I'm going to teach you how to dictate, delegate, and disappear.
Jay, I love it. That's like such a good hook. Like, I'm getting everybody.
Oh, I love it. Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Yeah. So great book. And
Dan Sullivan just came out with a new one.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
10x.
I haven't read it. I don't know, but I'll put it on my list. Well, Jay, we're going to make sure that we get a higher grid network. We believe that the power is on all the people all around you, all the relationships all around you. What you do, what you teach is the ethos of who we are. So we appreciate you coming on to the Grid Flip. And so thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And
absolutely,
we'll make sure that we put all your social media profiles on. We'll make sure we get the word out. And as always, make it a great day, Jay. Thanks so much.
I love it. One last thing real quick.
Sure.
Follow my podcast, everybody. The name of my podcast, easy to find, Raising Private Money. Imagine that. So I'm on iTunes, YouTube. Just search Raising Private Money. Throw Jay Conner in there if you want to, and you'll find me easily. So come hang out with me on the podcast. Rob, God bless you. Thank you so much. Life is a gift, and keep on being a go-giver.
You too, man. Thanks so much, Jay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money